In life, every one of us walks through seasons we don't understand. Days when nothing grows. Days when everything feels heavy. Days when hope seems like a distant memory. Maybe you're facing one of those days right now. Maybe you've tried, you've prayed, you've worked, and still nothing seems to change. But let me tell you something. In the quiet corners of the world, in the simplest lives, lie the greatest lessons about strength, resilience, and belief. This video is a journey into those lessons, stories of ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. Stories that will remind you that even when life seems empty, even when the soil looks dry, something beautiful may be growing beneath the surface. Today, we begin with the story of a farmer, a simple man, a father, a man who had lost almost everything except one final seed and an unshakable belief in what he could not yet see. This is the story of a lesson that changed his daughter's life and may change yours too. Take a deep breath. Let the noise fade. And let this story remind you that no matter how dark life becomes, hope always finds a way to rise.
There was once a farmer who lived in a quiet village surrounded by rolling fields. For years, he worked the land, planting, harvesting, providing for his family. But then came the drought. Week after week, month after month, the sun scorched the earth. The soil cracked, the crops withered, and the farmer's hope slowly faded. Everything he had stored was gone. Everything he had saved was spent. And when he opened his last sack of grain, he found only one seed left. One small, dusty, fragile seed. His little daughter watched him with worried eyes. "Papa, what will we eat now?" The farmer held the seed gently in his palm. His hands were tired, his heart even more tired, but his voice was steady. "We will plant this seed," he said softly, "and we will believe." The girl shook her head. "Believe in what? The ground is dry, the sun is too hot, the rain doesn't come anymore." The farmer smiled, not because he felt strong, but because he wanted her to feel strong. "Sometimes," he said, "hope begins as something smaller than this seed." So the next morning, they walked to the far edge of the field. The earth was cracked and lifeless, but the farmer knelt down, dug a small hole, and placed the seed inside, as if he were placing a prayer into the soil. His daughter watched, confused. "Papa, what if it doesn't grow?" He looked at her with gentle eyes. "Then we will plant again, and we will keep believing until something changes." Days passed, then weeks. The sky stayed empty, the ground stayed silent, and doubt grew inside the little girl's heart. One night, she cried quietly. She thought her father was asleep, but he heard her. He sat beside her bed and whispered, "Hope is not about what we see. It's about what we choose to believe, even when nothing seems possible." And then, something unexpected happened. One morning, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The wind shifted. The smell of rain filled the air. And suddenly, after months of suffering, the skies opened. Rain poured over the village, over the rooftops, over the fields, and over that tiny patch of soil where their last seed rested. The next day, the farmer took his daughter to the field. She gasped. Right where they had planted the seed, a small green sprout pushed through the soil, delicate, glowing with life, stretching toward the light. The farmer knelt beside it. Tears filled his eyes, but he smiled. He whispered, "You see, hope grows in silence. It grows when we're tired. It grows when we think it never will. But it grows if we don't give up." The little girl held his hand. She didn't say a word, but something inside her changed that day. She understood that miracles don't always appear suddenly. Sometimes they rise slowly, quietly, from a single seed of belief planted in a moment of despair. And that tiny sprout would become the harvest that saved their family. Sometimes life leaves you with just one seed, one dream, one chance, one final hope. Don't throw it away. Plant it, nurture it, protect it, because the smallest seed can bring the biggest miracle.
Morning came quietly, as if even the sun was hesitant to rise after the heavy night. A pale orange glow seeped into the cracks of the small wooden house where the farmer and his young daughter slept. But the farmer was already awake. He had not slept much, not with the weight pressing on his chest like a stone. He stepped out into the field, boots sinking into the soft, wet mud left by the storm. The land stretched before him, once green, now torn and beaten. Leaves floated like wounded birds. Soil that he had spent months nurturing now lay scattered and washed away. He knelt down and scooped the wet earth into his hands. It dripped through his fingers like something trying to escape him. His jaw tensed. His eyes grew heavy. He wasn't only looking at ruined soil. He was looking at every dream he carried. Dreams of harvest, of feeding his family, of paying debts, of giving his daughter a life he never had. He whispered under his breath, "Why now? I did everything right. Why now?" But there was no answer, just the distant sound of water dripping from the broken roof. Behind him, tiny footsteps approached. His daughter, still sleepy, still innocent to the gravity of their situation, wrapped her small arms around his waist. "Dada, will our crops grow again?" The farmer didn't respond immediately. He felt something tighten in his throat. How do you explain to a child that life sometimes collapses without warning? How do you tell her that you are scared too, that you don't have all the answers? He placed a hand gently on her head. "They will grow, but it might take time." She looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes, eyes that believed every word he spoke, eyes that saw him not as a man beaten by life, but as a hero who never failed. Her small voice broke the silence again. "Papa, you taught me that when something breaks, we fix it. So we can fix this too, right?" That simple sentence melted his despair. He carried her words with him as they walked back to the house, her hand in his, small but strong enough to pull his heart forward. Sometimes hope doesn't come roaring like thunder. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the soft voice of someone who believes in you even when you don't believe in yourself. And in that moment, the farmer realized something profound, that perhaps the storm outside wasn't the real battle. The real storm was inside him, and he needed to overcome that first.
The days that followed were slow, heavy, and filled with hard choices. Every morning, the farmer walked through what remained of his fields, He inspected the broken fences, the flooded patches, the fallen stalks. Each step felt like a reminder of everything he had lost. But his daughter followed him every day, sometimes singing, sometimes asking questions, sometimes simply holding his hand, as if her presence alone was enough to protect him from the world. One afternoon, as the sun began lowering behind the hills, the farmer stopped near the old wooden bench where he used to rest after long days of work. The bench had survived the storm, just barely, but it stood. He sat down slowly. His daughter sat beside him, swinging her feet above the ground. "Papa, why do you look sad every day now?" He exhaled deeply, not because he didn't want to answer, but because he didn't know how to shape the truth in a way her heart could carry. Because sometimes life gives us problems that feel too big to solve. She thought for a moment, tapping her tiny finger on her chin. Didn't Grandpa say every problem has a simple solution, but grown-ups make it complicated? Her words struck him like a bolt of lightning. He had remembered hearing that once from his own father, but life had buried that memory under worries, bills, exhaustion, and the quiet fear of failing. He looked at her, truly looked at her, her hair messy from playing, her hands covered in dust, her eyes full of sincerity. Children have a gift. They see the world without the shadows adults create. Where adults see impossibility, a child sees a puzzle. Where adults feel overwhelmed, a child sees only the next small step. The farmer placed his hand over her tiny one. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I have been making this too complicated." She smiled proudly, as if she had solved the greatest mystery in the world. "Then let's find the simple solution, Papa." He chuckled softly, but it wasn't just a laugh. It was a release, a small crack in the wall of doubt he had built around himself. At that moment, the farmer remembered something important. Hope doesn't return all at once. It returns in pieces, in moments, in small realizations, like sunlight slowly breaking through clouds after a storm. He stood up, brushing the dirt from his clothes. "All right, let's start with one thing, just one small thing we can fix today." Her face lit up with excitement. And so they began, father and daughter, walking through the fields, not trying to rebuild everything at once, but fixing one small problem at a time. A broken branch, a clogged irrigation line, a fallen fence post, a patch of soil that needed clearing. None of these tasks fixed the entire field. But something else was being repaired, something far more important. Piece by piece, the farmer's spirit began to heal, not because his land was restored, but because he remembered a truth he had forgotten. No matter how big the problem, you fix it the same way, one small step at a time. As the sun dipped low and painted the sky gold, the farmer lifted his daughter onto his shoulders. She laughed, her joy ringing across the fields like a promise of better days. And for the first time since the storm, the farmer smiled, not out of duty, not to reassure his daughter, but because he finally believed that hope was returning, slowly, gently, but surely.
The next week arrived with a quiet stillness, not the silence of peace, but the silence that comes before life tests you again. The farmer and his daughter woke early every morning, continuing their routine of repairing the land piece by piece. The field still looked wounded, but the farmer's heart no longer carried the same heaviness. Hope was growing, slowly, like a fragile seed pushing through hardened soil. But life has a way of checking whether your hope is real or simply wishful thinking. On the seventh day, dark clouds rolled across the sky without warning. The wind shifted, birds fled to the trees. The air grew thick, heavy, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The farmer felt his stomach twist. Another storm. His worst fear returning. He looked at the sky, jaw clenched, memories of destruction flashing in his mind. The ruined crops, the muddy fields, the hopeless nights, the quiet tears he hid from his daughter. Hope is beautiful, but it is most fragile right before it becomes strong. His daughter tugged at his shirt, her eyes wide with worry. "Papa, will the storm break everything again?" He knelt down, taking her hands gently in his. He wanted to say he wasn't afraid. He wanted to say he was strong. But he had taught himself something recently, that pretending to be strong is not the same as being strong. "Farmer, it might damage some things, but this time I won't break, because we'll face it together." She wrapped her arms around him tightly, and for the first time, he felt strength flow from her into him. The storm struck at noon. Winds whipped violently across the land. Raindrops hammered the ground, turning dirt into rivers. But the farmer didn't curl into despair this time. Instead, he stood at the window of their small home, watching with eyes full of determination. He wasn't fighting the storm outside. He was fighting the storm within. Hours passed. The storm began to weaken, then fade, until the sky released a final sigh of rainfall and the world grew quiet again. The farmer stepped outside cautiously. Some branches were broken, some tools scattered, but the fields had survived. More importantly, he had survived it with faith intact. His daughter ran out behind him, jumping in a small puddle. "Daddy, see, we didn't break, not even a little." Her joy echoed across the damp fields like sunlight after rain. In that moment, the farmer learned one of life's greatest truths. Hope is not proven when everything goes right. Hope is proven when everything threatens to go wrong and you still choose to believe. He lifted his daughter into his arms, spinning her under the soft, clearing sky, and she laughed louder, her joy turning the broken land into something beautiful again.
Days turned into weeks. The farmer and his daughter worked harder than ever, not out of fear, but out of belief. Every morning, the fields looked a little different, a little greener, a little stronger. Grass returned. The soil regained its color. Small sprouts began rising like shy promises pushing through the earth. The farmer would bend down, smile softly, and whisper to the new growth, "Welcome back. I've missed you." His daughter would squat beside him, eyes sparkling, touching each sprout gently. "They're trying, Papa, just like us." Her words always landed in his heart, like seeds of wisdom he didn't know he needed. The farmer was beginning to understand something profound. Miracles don't arrive fully formed. They arrive as small changes, quiet progress, tiny moments of growth that most people overlook. But not him. Not anymore. One particular morning, as golden daylight spilled across the fields, the farmer noticed something unusual. A corner of the farmland, the same one hit worst by the first storm, was blooming faster than the rest. Rows of green shoots stood proudly, vibrant and strong, as if the land had responded to his renewed spirit. He stepped closer, touched the leaves, and felt a warmth inside him. For a long time, he had believed miracles were rare, reserved for the chosen, or gifts from the heavens. But now he understood. Miracles don't happen to people. Miracles happen through people, through their perseverance, through their belief, through their refusal to give up.
His daughter came running toward him, hair bouncing, arms wide. "Papa! Papa, it's working! The land is happy again!" He laughed, lifting her into his arms, spinning her around until they both fell gently into the grass, laughing like the storm had never existed. And perhaps that was the greatest miracle of all. Not the crops regrowing, not the land healing, but a man rediscovering the strength he forgot he had. In the quiet that followed, the farmer held his daughter close, his voice soft and full of gratitude. "You were right, my little one. Every problem does have a simple solution. We just have to see it and believe in it." She rested her head on his chest and whispered, "And we have to try, Papa. Trying makes miracles." The farmer closed his eyes, letting her words imprint themselves forever. Life had tested him. Life had shaken him. Life had pushed him close to breaking. But life had also given him someone who reminded him of hope, faith, perseverance, and love. And because of that, his land was transforming, his heart was healing, and his future was regaining color.
As the days passed, the farmer began waking before dawn, not out of duty, not out of worry, but out of a quiet excitement he hadn't felt in years. Each morning, the first thing he wanted to see was the land that had once broken him and was now healing with him. The sky would still be dark, painted in soft shades of blue and violet, and the dew-covered field shimmered like a blanket of stars fallen to earth. He would walk barefoot through the soil, feeling the soft, cool ground beneath him, as though the land itself was speaking to him gently. And one morning, it did speak. Not in words, but in a feeling, a whisper that flowed through the wind, through the swaying leaves, through the gentle movement of young crops. "Keep going, I am with you." The farmer stopped in his tracks. His heart slowed. The breeze brushed against his face like a reassuring hand from something greater than himself. He had always feared this land, feared its unpredictability, feared its storms, feared the way it could take everything away in a single night. But that morning, for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt partnership. He felt connection. He felt purpose. The land wasn't an enemy. The land wasn't cruel. The land wasn't punishing him. It was teaching him. Teaching him patience. Teaching him faith. Teaching him the quiet power of daily effort. His daughter joined him moments later, sleepy-eyed and wrapped in a blanket. "Daughter, Papa, you're smiling at the field. Did it tell you a secret?" He laughed softly, lifting her into his arms. "Farmer, maybe it did. Maybe it told me the same thing you've been telling me all along." She rested her head on his shoulder, smiling. "Daughter, that everything will be okay?" He kissed her top of her head. "Farmer, yes, that everything will be okay." As the sun rose, painting gold across the landscape, the farmer felt something shift deep inside. Not hope, not relief, but certainty. He no longer wondered whether the crops would succeed. He no longer questioned whether life would break him again. He no longer doubted his strength. For the first time in a very long time, he believed, not because of proof, but because of faith. And faith, when held long enough, turns into truth. That day, the farmer and his daughter worked side by side, planting new seeds, rebuilding old fences, and humming softly as the wind played along. It felt less like work
and more like worship, a gentle prayer in motion. By sunset, the field glowed with warmth, and the farmer realized something profound. The land wasn't healing because of luck. It was healing because he had learned to listen. And sometimes, all healing begins with finally hearing the whisper that was there all along.
Weeks flowed into months. The seasons began to shift. The air warmed. The winds softened. The clouds brought rain, gentle, nourishing rain instead of destruction. And the fields, once broken and barren, now stood tall and proud. The young crops that once trembled against the wind were now strong enough to move with it gracefully. The farmer often stood in the middle of the field, hands on his hips, watching the plants sway in harmony, a dance he once believed he would never see again. The land had not only healed, it had flourished. Rows upon rows of green stretched toward the horizon, each leaf shining beneath the sun, each stalk standing like a survivor of a great war. This was the season of return, the moment when life gives back to the ones who believed, to the ones who stayed, to the ones who refused to break. The farmer's daughter ran through the tall crops, her laughter floating like music across the field. She spread her arms wide, letting her fingertips brush across the tops of the plants. "Daughter!" shouting joyfully. "Papa, look, they're taller than me now!" He laughed, shaking his head. "Farmer, they're almost taller than me!" She twirled, her hair glowing in the sunlight. "Daughter, does this mean we made it?" He bent down, picked her up, and spun her around as the field danced behind them. Farmer, "Yes, my little one, we made it!" But as he said the words, he felt another realization bloom inside him. They hadn't made it because the land grew back. They hadn't made it because the crops recovered. They hadn't made it because the storm was gone. They had made it because they had changed. Because he had learned to stand tall again. Because he had learned to trust again. Because he had learned to hope again. The farmer knelt down, letting his daughter sit on his knee. Farmer, softly, "You know, if the storm never came, I would have never learned how strong I could be." She placed her tiny hand on his cheek. "Daughter, and if you never got sad, I couldn't make you happy again." His eyes welled with tears, not of sorrow, but of pride. Her innocence had carried him when he couldn't carry himself. The breeze picked up again, gentle and warm, carrying with it the scent of new life. He felt it, a sense of fullness, completion. He wasn't healed because life became easy. He was healed because he grew stronger than the difficulties that once broke him. The season of return didn't just restore his crops, it restored him. It restored his joy. It restored his confidence. It restored his belief that even in the darkest places, something beautiful can grow. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky into a canvas of gold and rose, the farmer whispered into the wind, "Farmer, thank you for the storm, for the struggle, for the lesson, for the chance to rise again." His daughter slipped her hand into his. "Daughter, and thank you, Papa, for not giving up." They walked home together through the tall, swaying crops, the land bowing gently like a living testament to the power of belief. As the harvest season approached, The farmer woke one morning to a sky painted in warm gold, the air fresh, the land alive. It was the kind of morning that felt like a reward, a silent applause from the universe. He stepped outside, stretching as he admired the tall, thriving crops. The fields shimmered with life, each leaf glistening like it carried its own light. The land that once lay in ruins now stood as a symbol of resilience. His daughter ran across the yard, carrying a wooden basket almost too big for her tiny arms.
Papa, today is the day. We get to start harvesting.
Yes, and this time we harvest with joy, not fear. But just as they were about to begin, the farmer saw a figure approaching from the distance. A lone traveler, walking slowly along the dusty village road. The man was old, his beard long and silver, his clothes worn from years of journeying. He carried a wooden staff, and his calm expression radiated wisdom. The farmer recognized him instantly. It was the wise old teacher who had visited the village many years ago, a man whose guidance the villagers respected deeply. The old man smiled as he reached the gate. "It has been a long time, old friend." The farmer bowed slightly, deeply honored. "It has indeed. Please, rest here. You must be tired." The old man looked past him, toward the stretching fields that danced in the sunlight. "I came because I heard a story about a farmer who lost everything, but found strength where others would have found despair." The farmer felt a quiet shock. He never imagined anyone outside the village knew what happened. "And I wanted to see, with my own eyes, the land that grew from faith." The farmer guided the old man through the field. With each step, the wise man gently touched the tall stalks, observing their strength, their color, their resilience. Finally, he turned to the farmer and asked, "What changed you? What brought you back from your suffering?" The farmer looked down, emotion swelling in his chest. He thought of the storm, the despair, the hopeless nights. But he also thought of his daughter, the child who had become his light when everything around him felt dark. "I remembered that losing hope is worse than losing the land." The wise man smiled, as though that answer was exactly what he came for. They sat under the shade of an old tree, overlooking the fields. The wise man spoke slowly, his voice carrying the weight of years. "You have learned one of life's greatest truths. A broken season does not mean a broken life. Sometimes the land must be cleared so something even stronger can grow." The farmer nodded, deeply moved. The wise man stayed with them for hours, sharing wisdom, listening to their journey, admiring the quiet miracle the farmer and his daughter had created together. Before leaving, he placed his hand on the farmer's shoulder. "Remember this. Storms do not come to destroy you. They come to prepare you for the harvest you were meant for." The farmer felt tears forming, but they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of understanding, the kind that come when life finally makes sense.
The wise man departed slowly, but his words remained, echoing in the farmer's heart like a sacred truth.
The next morning arrived with excitement in the air. It was the day they had waited for, the day that would mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, the harvest day. The entire field glowed under the rising sun, the crops tall, golden, and ready, like thousands of tiny suns swaying together. The farmer held the first stalk gently, as though it were something fragile, something sacred. His daughter stood beside him, her eyes sparkling. "Papa, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." He smiled at her, his voice thick with emotion. "That's because this harvest isn't just food, it's our journey." Together, they began to cut the first bundle. The sound of the sickle slicing through the stalks felt like the closing of an old wound. With every cut, memories resurfaced. The storm, the tears, the hopeless nights, the rebuilding, the faith, the small sprouts, the whispering breeze. But now, each memory felt different. Not painful, not heavy, healed. His daughter placed each bundle into the basket with careful hands. "Papa, do you think the land remembers everything too?" He paused, thinking deeply. "Yes, just like we do. The land remembers our pain, but it also remembers our effort, our hope, our strength." She smiled, satisfied. By noon, the baskets were overflowing, not just with crops, but with triumph. Neighbors came to help, astonished by the transformation. They marveled at the field's beauty, whispering, "How did he recover so much land in so little time?" But the farmer never answered, not because he wanted to hide the truth, but because the real answer was not something they could see with their eyes. His daughter, however, answered for him. "Because Papa believed, and when you believe, the land believes with you." The villagers smiled, touched by her innocence. By evening, the barn was full, overflowing with the largest harvest the farmer had ever seen. The fields glowed under the golden sunset, and the farmer realized something powerful. This harvest was not the result of perfect conditions. It was the result of an unbroken heart. It was born from faith, from perseverance, from a father and a daughter who refused to surrender. As the final rays of sunlight kissed the land, the farmer lifted his daughter onto his shoulders. "Look, my little one, this is our promise from life. When you don't give up, life gives back." She rested her hands on his head, her voice soft and full of wonder. "And this is just the beginning, Papa." He nodded, tears filling his eyes again, tears of gratitude, faith, and overwhelming joy. The day of harvest was not merely the end of suffering, it was the celebration of courage, the reward for hope, the evidence that every storm, every trial, every struggle was worth it. Because from brokenness, they had grown something beautiful. And the land, once wounded and silent, now whispered proudly through the wind, "You endured, and because you endured, you have earned your harvest." The morning after the Great Harvest Festival was quieter than usual, wrapped in a calm silence that felt almost sacred. The sky still held the faint blush of dawn, as though the sun itself was slowly waking after celebrating with the villagers the previous night. Children were still asleep, elders rested late, and even the animals seemed unusually peaceful. But one figure stood awake long before the rest. The young man, now no longer a boy, but not yet fully aware of how much he had changed.
He stood in the doorway of the small farmhouse, holding the wooden staff his father had once carved, tracing his finger along its familiar markings. This staff had been a tool, a burden, and recently, a symbol. But today, it felt like a reminder, not of the past, but of the path ahead. As he stepped outside, he noticed something new. The once barren soil beside the old well, the patch that had refused to grow anything for years, now shimmered with tiny green sprouts, pushing through the earth like small miracles trying to greet the morning light. He knelt beside them, running his fingers across the soft soil. These weren't here before, he whispered to himself. Then he remembered something, his father's last words on the night the storms hit. Sometimes the soil takes time, but if you do not give up on it, it never gives up on you. A soft wind brushed across his face, almost like a hand, and for a moment he felt his father standing beside him, not as a memory, not as a lesson, but as the living echo of every seed planted, every prayer whispered, every moment he chose hope over despair. Across the village, people slowly emerged from their homes, stretching and yawning, unaware of the revelation growing near the well. The elders approached first, leaning on their walking sticks. The children followed, curious as always, and then the others came, one by one, drawn by the sight of the young man kneeling in the dirt, with tears shining in his eyes. "What is it?" one of the elders asked. He stepped aside, allowing them to see the sprouts. Gasps broke the early morning quiet. "This land was dead," someone whispered. But the elder shook his head. "No land is dead, only waiting." The young man smiled gently, the kind of smile that comes from finally understanding something your heart has known long before your mind caught up. As the villagers gathered, he spoke to them, his voice steady, confident, yet humble. "This," he said, touching the sprout, "is not about farming. It's not about luck. It's about all of us. It's about what my father taught me and what I had to learn the hard way. The storms come, yes, the struggles come, the failures come, but if we stop planting, if we stop believing, then nothing in our life will ever grow again." The villagers listened quietly. There was no need for applause. His words settled into the air like seeds themselves, sinking deep, waiting for their time to sprout inside each person who heard them. A bird landed on the rim of the well, chirping softly. The young man looked up, noticing that this was the same well where his father used to sit, telling him stories in the evening, warning him gently, guiding him patiently. Now it was his turn, not to replace his father, but to continue the lesson. Behind him, the village elder placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have grown, child," the elder said, "not because life was kind, but because you didn't let pain make you bitter." The young man bowed his head respectfully. "I didn't grow alone. I grew because of my father, because of everything he taught me, because of what he believed in, even when no one else did." The elder nodded. "And now you must decide what you will teach the next generation." The young man stood up tall, holding the staff firmly in his hands. He looked around at the village, at the cracked walls, the restored roofs, the newly planted fields, the people who had changed, just as he had changed. He said softly, "I will teach them that hope is not a feeling.
It is a practice, a discipline, a choice we make again and again, even when everything feels impossible. The villagers stepped closer, forming a circle, not around the sprouts, but around him, because they knew every village needs a guide, every season needs a shepherd, every story needs someone brave enough to continue it. And the young man, once filled with fear, doubt, and loss, stood ready. The sky brightened. The sun rose fully, painting the horizon gold. And with it, a new chapter of the village and his life began.
Time passed. The village grew stronger. The fields flourished. The storms came less often. But when they did, the people no longer panicked. They remembered. They rebuilt. They replanted. And the young man, now a respected farmer, mentor, and quiet leader, continued the legacy of his father with patience and grace. Every evening, children gathered near the old well, where he would sit with them and share the same gentle wisdom he once received. Your struggles do not define you. Your hope does. Your effort does. Your heart does. And whenever someone felt like giving up, he would walk with them to the patch of land near the well, where the once dead soil now thrived with life. "Do you see this?" he would say. "This grew because someone refused to give up on it, and so will you." The villagers whispered stories of the father, the man who taught hope. They whispered stories of the son, the one who lived it. And so the lesson continued. Not in books, not in speeches, not in monuments, but in every seed planted with faith, in every child taught with kindness, in every moment when someone decided to keep going even when the world told them to stop. The story of the farmer's final lesson did not end in that village. It spread through travelers, through stories, through hearts that needed healing. And maybe today, it has reached you. A reminder that you are stronger than your storms. You are capable of miracles you cannot yet see. And no matter how hard your soil seems today, something beautiful can still grow from it. So keep planting, keep believing, keep hoping. Because on the other side of your struggle, your own sunrise is waiting.